create for it, let's say you use the critical testing process framework, you'd have 12 processes. For each process, you'd have, say, 3 or 4 key process indicators that you would be looking at. So, that's the way to proceed on that. Let's see, question from Shane. One thing that test teams sometimes deal with is bad requirements documents from designers. You have garbage in, garbage out. What's the best way to prevent this? Should you just keep sending the docs back? And sometimes both sides get frustrated with. Yeah, that requirements ping pong is definitely not a fulfilling experience. I mean, we had that happen with one client once where we were going back and forth, back and forth. Finally, the client contact came to us and said, look, you got to stop pestering these guys with your marketing people with your questions about the requirements. And I said, well, we've done some analysis on this, and then we can proceed with the requirements the way they're written, but we expect that we're going to be about 20 to 25% less efficient if we have to proceed with this document. So that basically there's me pointing out the pain, right? That's basically saying either we're going to test 20% less, 25% less, or we're going to cost 20 to 25% more, right? Now, the client came back with an interesting response. He said, I would rather just pay you the extra money now than have to try to teach these guys how to write requirements. And I said, well, that being the case, and as long as your checks don't bounce, that's fine. I think you have to be realistic about how much change you're going to be able to affect here. I mean, quantify the problems that this bad requirements cause in terms of a reduced defect detection effectiveness, a reduced defect detection efficiency, increased turnaround time in terms of closure period on the bugs, because there's arguments about whether something is or is not a bug, the increased defect rejection rate, which is another form of inefficiency, and start to quantify some of the things that happen because of bad requirements. And if that doesn't motivate change, then you have to play the hand you're dealt. I mean, as testers, we have to do that. But make sure that when you're trying to motivate change, you're not communicating from a, it makes me sad when these things happen perspective, because that don't communicate about your pain, because as I've said many times, nobody cares about your pain, right? In an organization, people care about wider organizational pain. So anytime you're talking about how sad it makes you that something happens, there's a place to have that conversation, and that place is called a bar, and that's called venting, but the problem solving is a different thing. Let's see. Albert asks, how can we communicate to senior management that quality is important from the beginning of the development process? Well, I think this gets into what does management value, right? If money is important, then one of the things that you can do is look at the differential cost of failure later in the project rather than earlier in the project, and communicate based on that. If time to market is what's really important, then communicate about how it is that a large number of bugs found during system test is what actually determines how long system test takes to execute, right? I mean, do a simple comparison of what if we ran every one of our tests and they all passed and we didn't find any bugs? How long would it take us to release then versus what we currently experience? This gets back to finding people's pain. What is going to motivate them to change is what makes them feel pain. And I would say go after that. Figure out what is their motivation, what is their pain point, and use that to try to motivate. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not. You can do this the wrong way and come across as manipulative, and I'm certainly not. I'm not trying to suggest that. I'm suggesting an honest attempt to communicate with people about something that matters to everybody when I'm talking about pain. I'm not talking about manipulating people politically. Let's see, another question via email. I've read about test policy documents in your book on advanced software testing. Can I use a test policy document to define my mission, and if so, how does that work? Yes, you absolutely can. There's a discussion about that in Advanced Software Testing Volume 2 about how a test policy document works. It should be a short document that defines your objectives and key metrics for using those objectives. And I would say that's that's a good thing to do. Look at defining a process and or defining your mission and your objectives in that policy document. A question from Yusuf here. Good to hear from you again, Yusuf. What's your advice on managing stakeholder expectations? How do you convince non-technical people who strongly believe you should find all bugs that it can't be done? Ooh, well, one way is through this what I was talking about, external benchmarking. I mean, nobody finds all bugs. It just simply does not. It doesn't happen. There is no test team out there that does that. I think, maybe sometimes this problem is that when you say that as a test manager, when somebody says that from inside, it comes across perhaps as defensive or as self-justifying. You can point to books like mine that talk about this topic. You can point to books like those that Capers-Jones has written, where he quotes industry numbers about percentages of bugs that are found and fixed in different organizations, and it's just try to bring some other outside voices into the debate, because one of the things that sometimes happens is that these stakeholders have as I said before, really become sort of married to this opinion. They've got this opinion that, well, you should find all the bugs, and if you're not doing that, then you're not doing your job right. And if you go back and forth with them, it might not be the world's most productive discussion. So I'd say try to get some outside voices involved if you can by citing books and so forth, and to really try to avoid getting into a defensive mode on this, because I think that's counterproductive. Okay. Time for one last question here from Avinash. What if your leaders believe you are a QA organization but has only empowered you to be a software test organization tasked with measuring the quality of the product as opposed to improving quality? It's shocking how they don't see the difference in spite of it being so obvious. Besides your books, webinars, etc., are there other industry standard material that you would recommend that we can use as data? Yes, I think that gets back to what I was just saying to Yusuf. Pick up a copy of one of Capers-Jones's books on this, and look at some of the research that he's done on cost of defects found and defect removal effectiveness in various stages of the life cycle. And I think this should give you some ammunition for why to do things earlier rather than later. Okay, to close this session, let me tell you a bit more about the resources available through RBCS. We plan to run these free webinar sessions about once a month, so check our website, www.rbcs-us.com, to sign up. If you would like a special webinar presentation for your company only of this webinar or any other topic related to software testing, please contact us at info@rbcs-us.com or via our website. If you don't already receive our regular free newsletter, you can sign up at www.rbcs-us.com. By signing up, you will get valuable discounts on consulting and training services, along with a regular newsletter that includes a featured article on software testing and quality and news about what RBCS and its partners are doing lately. You can also follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/RBCS. So this concludes the webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and hope to hear you again on future webinars.